Hello, and welcome back to wife-aggro videos. We're going to continue our look at the freemium MMO World of Tanks with a look at the artillery. So we'll start with a look at artillery in the garage and the statistics. You can see from the values that there's very little armor on a tier 3 piece of artillery, but it does do fairly decent damage for tier 3. And what we'll do is we'll compare that to my tier 3 M3 Stuart, which, although it is elite, I've done all the research, it has more armor, but doesn't do anywhere near as much damage. And you can see some of the other statistics as well. And you'll see that repeat throughout the other tiers. Artillery is always going to have less armor, but more punch than a tank. So let's take a look at how the artillery works in battle. There's a lot of similarities to the tank destroyer in the artillery. You'll see that from the top-down representation in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, that the muzzle of the gun does not traverse very far to the left and right. You can also see that when you're outside of sniper mode, you can turn the tank by moving the cursor to the left and right of the screen. Aiming view is quite a bit different in artillery than the other two tank classes. You can see that basically you're doing a top-down view of the map. There's a couple of visual clues you need to be aware of when playing artillery. The angle line is color-coded. If you see a green line, then you have the ability to fire on that area. A red line means that you're blocked by some sort of terrain or building or object. And then, as we'll see later, the gray line means that that spot is outside your range. You'll also notice that the aiming circle for artillery takes quite a while to narrow down. This is a tier 3 piece of artillery, so that may change over time, but for me so far it hasn't. You'll also notice that the aiming circle goes from an oval to a circle. That kind of shows the angle of the shot on your target. If you see a fairly regular circle, that means the shot's going to come almost straight down on the target. However, an oval means that you're kind of shooting across the terrain into the target. And as you get better with artillery, you're going to have to learn how to use that angle to your advantage. We can see here how the angle line has turned gray on me. That means that I'm aiming outside of the range of my particular gun. And you can still see where the shot's approximately going to land, but you can see that it's not going to carry far enough to hit this KV, which I'm sure he's thrilled about. So what I will try and do here is kind of pre-register on the road where I think he might eventually head, because I'm not in that fight. And you'll see that my aiming circle stays fairly small because I did not traverse the tracks of my tank. Okay, so let's spend some time showing examples of my many mistakes with artillery in the hopes that you can learn from them. As you can see in this example, I'm not leading this T-14 at all. He's rolling down the road, fat, dumb, and happy, and even if my gun had been reloaded, it does take a while for the shell to go from my tank to his tank, and I don't start leading him until after I'm already reloaded. And you can see when you have to shift on a shot, it takes a while for your crew to get your aiming circle back down. See, I need to avoid that. Second mistake that I typically make is not dealing with terrain correctly. And you see how this tank is backing in the terrain, and you can see that the aiming circle is kind of half on the mountain. And even though I hit him with the shot, it was a low percentage chance, and I probably shouldn't have taken that shot then. It would have been better for me to set up in front of that tank and wait for him to come out from cover. So here's number 3 of the stupid things that I do with artillery. And this is a kind of a longish clip, but basically to set this up, I'm trying to get in tucked in behind the tanks in front of me. I know that I've got an early artillery piece. I don't have a lot of range. So I'm trying to get to about the mid part of the map so I can help with the push towards the base near the end of the match. Unfortunately, I'm so excited about running up and getting into the fight that I'm really not doing a very good job of supporting anybody. Constantly in motion, constantly switching from one side of the map to the other, looking for different shots. And I'm really not even a factor in this fight. So I think I can attribute this clip basically to not having any knowledge of how to play this map with artillery. It's important to know where you can get some good shots off with the tank that you're using, that you're used to. I didn't have the experience with this piece of artillery. I didn't have enough experience running this piece of artillery on this map. And so even though my team is pushing, I have no idea where to set up to help them out with. I'm always looking for shots, and I have no idea what the range of my gun is for where I'm at on the map. What you see me doing here is something I learned late, or maybe not late. I guess I haven't been into it that long, but I'm pre-registering on a piece of terrain. It takes quite a while for a piece of artillery to angle in or aim in. So I pre-registering the way I am now, I can kind of cover in front of those two tanks as they're coming in. But you see right away I switch off because I see something on the mini-map, and I kind of take away that advantage altogether. And it's late in the game. I'm not sure I could have got any real shots off on any of these guys, but knowing the terrain, I think I probably would have been more of a factor in this fight. And I think I end this match with 0 kills and a lot of shots. So I would say, you know, now with maybe a little bit more experience running this piece of artillery on this map, what I probably should have done is go straight down the road to the crossroads at around H2. And then I could have shot straight up the hill and supported those tanks that they were pushing on the enemy base. Instead, I'm basically just using my top-down aiming view to watch other people play the game. And, you know, artillery in this game is such a game changer that it was unfortunate that how poorly I played. And it's to be avoided, obviously. As I'm basically useless in this match, let's take a little bit of time and notice how slowly that aiming circle comes in with artillery, especially when you're flailing around just aiming all over the place. Your crew training has a lot to do with how well you're going to aim with artillery. With the tank destroyer and with tanks, you can use the aiming mode or the sniper mode and basically see where your shot's going to land. With artillery, you're designating a circle where you want the round to land. And a better crew is going to do a better job of hitting what's in that spot. You can see how little effect I had on this match. Kind of pitiful. And I think in this later clip, we're going to see my crew adjust for me and actually hit what's in the circle, even though I'm not really aiming at it correctly. So here's probably the biggest mistake I make in the game. And if you remember from the tank destroyer video, if you watch that, I spoke a little bit about knowing where you're at on the minimap. What we're going to see here is a prolonged example of how artillery can pay for that mistake. If you're watching the minimap, you can see this KV is just creeping up on me. And I really have no place to go. I'm out in front. Everybody in front of me has been destroyed. I wasn't paying attention. I have no doubt this KV driver is just excited. It takes about 30 seconds for an early stage KV to shoot, which is probably why I'm even alive this long. And even though I think I'm going to try and get out of here, there's no place for me to go. Sure, the guy is typing away in chat to his friends about, or his teammates about the piece of artillery he's about to slaughter. About this time I decide, well, I'm not going to get away from him. I might as well try and turn around and make a fight out of it. But my 30 seconds are up, and he's going to kill me.
Vehicle destroyed.
So pay attention to the map. This last one, this is really just experience. You can see where I'm kind of covering the approach from a pretty decent spot on this map. I can fire all the way across the valley onto the cliffs up above. I think I'm in the same spot that I was shooting at artillery with my tank destroyer in a previous video. The mistake I make here is artillery is really dependent on spotters, and there's a tank destroyer at C5 that's rolling up, that's spotting tanks for me, and I'm not covering him at all. He's in a turning battle with a Sherman or an M2 medium tank here. My Hetzers can take a beating, but I should have been in that fight a lot earlier. You can see another tank comes in and just runs into him all retarded like. I could have got a couple of shots into that fight, and I think I let that Hetzer down. And you'll see, because I spent so much time getting there, dinking around, not paying attention to my spotters, while I'm waiting for the reload, that guy just basically drives out of my shot. So here's a little bit about what I've managed to learn to do correctly with artillery, and I'm still fairly new at it. I wasn't planning on doing this video right away, but kind of wanted to do at least one a week. So here's me. I'm in a pretty good spot where these tanks can't see me, and I can cover the guys down there fighting across the valley. You can see I'm finally learning to let my crew get a good shot in, even though they're not hitting exactly where I'm aiming. It's pretty important to have a trained up crew for artillery, and I think that at tier 4 I'm probably just going to stay in that priest for a while till I can get that crew up. I'm staying on the target better, giving my crew more time to shoot at them. Just not doing enough damage with the tier 3 piece of artillery. Also, it's important with artillery to do small movements. You see how I'm keeping my aiming circle fairly well? It's because I'm within the traverse range of my shot, or of my barrel. As long as you're not making your tracks move, you can keep a pretty tight aiming circle. Here's another example. I've spotted this fight. There's a bunch of tanks clustered up. It's a good spot for artillery to kind of start pre-registering into that area. And by making small, gradual movements with the turret, I'm hoping to keep from traversing the treads and be able to get some shots off. You can also notice I'm starting to learn how to lead these guys with artillery a little bit better. That guy stopped, and I put a shot right on the back of him.
Got him.
You see when I had to turn to the left or to the right, which I'm doing here, I'm making my crew restart the whole aiming cycle over again. So the whole circle starts over again. Something to keep in mind, you're better off aiming at clusters of tanks. And I know there's a cluster of tanks up here, so I'm starting to pre-register on that area till I can see them. And that gives my crew time to aim in on them. There's Sherman at 5%. Panzer 4, 80 some odd percent. And I led those guys a little too long. They got out of my range. You'll see there is a luck factor involved here. Obviously, that tank moved out of my shot. Didn't have a chance, even though my crew had a fairly tight circle. Not as much as I normally would have liked. And I think you'll see here what I was talking about earlier about the crew adjusting for you. I'm on one tank, then I kind of shift. And I'm going to kind of luck out here. I'm obviously not on that guy, but my crew adjusts, and I get him. So there is a luck factor. Obviously, staying with clusters of tanks is helping me out quite a bit in this match. And what you'll see in this last example is that I'm pre-registering kind of a spot where I expect tanks to hide. You see I've moved up on the minimap a little bit into the C and D area. So I'm watching this road, and I'm watching behind rocks. I've learned a little bit about the maps, and so now I'm kind of using some of that knowledge to hunt for tanks with my scope. There's a tank hiding behind a different rock. And I go back, and there's a very unlucky piece of artillery creeping up. And he's going slow enough that I give my crew enough time, and I take him out.
Enemy vehicle destroyed.
So while I'm by no measure an expert in artillery, I one day hope to be. I'm learning how to cover my spotters when they're spotting for me. I'm learning how to let my crew take their time aiming, and I'm learning the maps and the range of my guns on those maps. We hope you're enjoying this series of videos we're doing for the World of Tanks game from wife-aggro videos. Check out our website and have a great day.